Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Monday, August 3rd, and I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here with my partner in crime, Mr. NBA himself, Andrew Hansen. How are you? I'm going to say tonight, it's, uh, the night before, very, very late. It's actually really not it's almost KBO time when
Well,
we
it
were.
is. It is where I am. It's funny when you said, this is August 3rd. I was thinking, well, it's the podcast for August 3rd. But then I looked down and it is actually August 3rd here early in the morning. We just wanted to watch the late games again and, get this podcast out early because we have these middle of the day, early afternoon starts now in the bubble. So, yeah, it's hard to keep track of what day it is, what slate we're on, but we've got all the games written down, so we know we got 6 game slate.
Yeah.
So let's have some fun.
Well, they say be careful what you wish for. We kept touting and getting all fired up for around the clock basketball. And I know it's awesome, but it's exhausting, that's for
Yeah.
sure, trying to watch all the games and be prepared. But it's been a fun day today. We had a good sweat tonight in basketball. We had a great day in Major League Baseball, and we just keep it rolling. So we're excited about this slate. It's a 6-game NBA slate. There are 3 teams, I believe, on a back-to-back
That's right.
second night, and 2 teams on the front end of a back-to-back, and that's important. You want to share those with the listeners?
Yeah, so game one, Miami's on the front end of a back-to-back, so that's going to be a challenge against Toronto. And
Mm-hmm.
then game three, both teams are involved in it. Indiana's on the front end, and we know they have lots of injuries, so they'll probably rest guys and then play the other guys game two. And the Wizards are on the second night of a back-to-back, so whoever plays for Indiana is going to get tired legs for the Wizards. They're already bad defensively.
Yeah.
Next game, Memphis back-to-back, and they've got to deal with the Pels, and that's going to be a fun matchup. Those teams fighting for the end of the
Yeah.
playoff race in the West.
It's like a playoff game itself.
Yeah. And then the Spurs, second night of a back-to-back, and they have to deal with the 76ers. So, uh, interesting and important dynamic there.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Well, before we jump in, I want to really thank our presenting sponsors. That is mybookie.ag. It's a place to go for all your sports wagering and casino action. Go to mybookie.ag or dfscoachtalk.com and sign up with the promo code CoachTalk, no space, and you receive exclusive offer of a 100% bonus all the way up to $1,000 on your first deposit. And just for being a listener to our DFS Coach Talk podcast, you receive a free $25 play. So you got to love that. And also tvg.com. It's the #1 horse racing site on the planet. Go to dfscoachtalk.com or tvg.com. Same promo code, Coach Talk, no space. And you get the famous risk-free $300 bet, which is a great offer. Try to hit for some big bankroll, or you get TVG refunds your whole 300. So you got to love it. So we really appreciate both of them. Couple of things real quickly here. Again, it's wee hours of the morning the night before these games, so make sure to follow the process. We've got this. I will post this here this evening, so on your way to work or whenever you want to listen in the morning, you can check out the podcast. Make sure, though, to jump on our Twitter and follow us throughout prior to start. It's a 1:30 p.m. Eastern for the first game and a 12:30 Central. Now, FanDuel has all 6 games on their main slate, and we'll be covering all 6 of those. DraftKings only has 5. They start with the second game at 3 o'clock. So just a little bit difference there, but we will be in there before both locks, 30 minutes before lock. So you're listening to the podcast, following us on Twitter, and then jump in 30 minutes before lock for the DraftKings slate and the FanDuel slate, because there's going to be some news that happens. Right now, we only have 3 out of the 6 games with the game line up at mybookie.ag because there is some question marks on some players. So definitely follow that with us. And if, as far as the Twitter piece, at DFS Coach Talk is where you can find all of us. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Mr. Hansen is at Language Olympic. We have Shane at DET Sports Shane. And those are our main basketball guys. If you do want to check out some of the articles for golf and KBO and some different things like that, you can still follow at Freddie Mills 7. He is still part of the team for good, I hope. We love having Freddie as part of the squad. Okay, we're going to talk about a couple of things. I'm not going to read through an exhausting list of guys, Andrew. I'm going to save you that as far as injuries and question marks and all of that. I'm going to go over 5 key players for tomorrow that are on this initial list. Bam Adebayo is listed as probable. He tweaked a quad, but more than likely should play. We still have this 50-50 Malcolm Brogdon news, which, was a big deal because they moved him to 60% to start last time. It was trending to he was going to play, and then he was a fairly late scratch. So definitely keep your eyes open on Malcolm. Jamal Murray and Victor Oladipo are 2 guys that I don't believe are going to lace them up tomorrow. Murray for the Nuggets and Oladipo for the Pacers are both listed as doubtful. And then Andrew's great call from the other night, Royce O'Neal is probable. He more than likely will suit it up, and they're going to need him against the Lakers. So that's the initial early news there, and we'll continue to fill that in. So let's go game by game. We've got the first game in the morning, 1:30 Eastern, 12:30. I do have some preliminary lines here. This is beautiful. We can do lines for every game. So we've got, they just popped up there. They're right on target. So we've got the Toronto Raptors at the Miami Heat, a fantastic game. This should be real entertaining to watch. We've got right now the Toronto Raptors -2.5. The over-unders are not up, so we'll just go over the straight lines for now for some of these games. Some of them do have over-unders. This game does not, because Bam Adebayo is listed as probable, and that would move the line for sure. The projected lineup, real quickly, starting for Toronto would be Lowry, Van Vliet, Anunoby, Siakam, and Gasol. And for the Heat, Nunn, Butler, Robinson, Crowder, and Adebayo. That's who they went with the last game. Jimmy Butler had a personal issue yesterday. I guess he had something to deal with, but he's fine. He's back, and he is confirmed in the lineup tomorrow. So what do you think about game 1? Very intriguing game that I'm looking forward to watching.
Yeah, it should be a good battle. They've had 2 close ones, one higher scoring that went to overtime, 121-110. The other one, a defensive battle, 84-76.
Yeah.
Miami victorious in both. And I'm going to talk about this one a little bit from the perspective of the showdown slate on DraftKings. Because you mentioned it is a separate game on DraftKings. It's part of the main slate on FanDuel, but you got the showdown slate on DraftKings and then a 5-game main slate. So if you're going to play this early game, I'm going to give you a couple pointers here, a couple angles to use. Number one is I'm probably going to fade Lowry. I think he's overpriced in this. He looked excellent against the Lakers, but he's the most expensive guy on this slate. And, Miami's done a great job against him. He had a 2-for-18 game against them, including 0-for-11 from three-point land.
Oh,
so I think, they've got his number. He's going to be a little tired. And I don't think he deserves to be by far the most expensive guy. So I'm going to fade him, and I'm going to use a fair amount of Mr. Butler, your guy who you were on in the first matchup, and he looked great. He was really aggressive, really looking for his shot, penetrating. And if that personal issue's cleared up and he's ready to go, He's the fourth most expensive guy. So I think he's probably going to be the captain in most of my lineups here. And then I don't think I'll be able to fade Siakam. Just too good, too balanced. And the pricing here for these other sort of peripheral players is a little bit high. So I don't see how you could fade especially if I'm going to fade Lowry. I don't think you could also fade Siakam. So that's the key build there, and we'll give a couple other plays to our members in Discord tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll attack this game from the FanDuel side. I'm absolutely perplexed on FanDuel. I have played Lowry a ton. I love Lowry, and he's been moderately to underpriced almost all year. Do you know that he is the sixth most expensive player in all of FanDuel on all 12 teams playing? Isn't that crazy?
The algorithm for both sites just went nuts after
they
that
went
first
nuts
game.
on him. I mean, he's the same price as Adebayo. He's more expensive than Butler, Simmons, Siakam, and I could keep going.
Jeez.
It's nuts.
Wow.
So Kyle Lowry at 8,300 on FanDuel is a complete fade for me. I mean, not only, is he probably a little gassed, I can't see that he can, that price increase is just ridiculous. So, I'm with you there. These two teams, two of the better coaches in the league in Nurse and Spoelstra for sure. And, I don't see this game being a super high scoring game. And I wish we had the line on this one. It's the only one that doesn't have the over under posted right now, but I got to think that it's going to be pretty low. These two teams can battle. And I think that, it'll have a playoff feel to it because they're both going to want to show something. They hope to meet in the Eastern Final if they can get past Milwaukee, either one of them. But this game just seems to me like an overpriced game where I think a lot of people are going to be tempted to want to roster some people early, specifically on FanDuel, and I just don't see a lot of value here. I always love Jimmy Butler as well. He's playing great, but, I think pricing-wise, I don't know what the personal issue is, if he's going to be distracted at all. And then Bam not being completely 100% with that quad strain, and then, of course, Lowry and Siakam are just so expensive. Maybe the play here is Fred VanVleet. He's consistent. He has a tendency to pick things up when Lowry gets a little break. He's 6,600 on FanDuel, so he's almost 2,000 less than Lowry. And I think he's a reasonable play, especially if, he gets some run at point when Lowry gets some rest. So that's one guy I'd look at. I mean, you always have to consider Siakam, but I'll tell you, Spoelstra sets up a tremendous team defense, and I know he's going to focus on stopping Siakam before anybody else. So I think they'll rotate guys around, athletic guys like Derrick Jones Jr., and, they'll rotate on Siakam to try to make it as difficult as possible. So for me, Andrew, this is mostly a fade game because I respect these teams defensively. And the only guy that may make a lineup for me because of the potential to put up a 50-point fantasy day at a reasonable price is Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, I like that price on FanDuel. That's nice.
All right, let's go to game two. It's 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Indiana Pacers at the Washington Wizards. So this ought to be extremely interesting when you consider the fact that was just a tweet that came in from Freddie Mills. He must be talking KBO.
All right.
So, yeah, the Pacers are dinged up, and we know Washington, the majority of their team's not there. I'm still riding high on the performance from Thomas Bryant today. I had him plugged in on everything, and he was fantastic. But can he repeat that, on a back-to-back? I don't know, man. It's going to be tough. But right now, the line is the Pacers by 6.5, and the over-under's 227.5. thanks to our friends at mybookie.ag. The lineups as of now look Brogdon being 50-50. We don't know if he's going to go. And then we have the Holiday brothers, Aaron and Justin, with TJ Warren and Miles Turner. And then the Wizards, if they stick with the same group, they'd go Napier, Bonga, Brown, Hashimura, and Bryant. So, interesting game. We know the woes of Washington's defense. The question is, how is TJ Warren going to show after a 53-point game? And how is this game going to unfold? 227.5 is a really decent over-under. So, they're obviously Vegas understands Washington's poor D. The other question I have for you, Andrew, when you break this down, I know Indiana's dinged up, but did they blow out Washington?
Good question. So many moving parts in this game. It's critical that we know who the backcourt is for Indiana, because if Brogdon and Oladipo are out, that changes everything.
Right.
If assuming just Oladipo's out and Brogdon plays, then it's a much tougher decision because Holiday and TJ McConnell, their prices have gone up, and that's really the beginning of the theme for me here on the main slate on DraftKings is that a lot of these value plays are priced up 500 to 1,000 from where they've been, and some of these studs are priced up, close to 1,000 as well. The pricing got really challenging really quickly on this slate on DraftKings, and you look at Aaron Holiday at 5K. I mean, that's where I would start. He had a great game, 15, 5, and 10 against Philly. So I'm going to look at him. But if Brogdon's in there, he's only 6.2. So you could just go with Brogdon. I do plan to have one of those guys in a bunch of my lineups. And you mentioned TJ Warren. What an incredible game. He's one of these guys that immediately got priced up. All of a sudden, he's 7.4. So, maybe he's worth a shot in a couple lineups. You ride the hot hand. I mean, he's got to be feeling so great. 53 points, just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, the funny thing about the pricing with the Wizards is Thomas Bryant. He got priced up quickly to 6.3. The other guy who went down in price is Rui. And I know in general you like to play him, you like his skill, and at 5.8 after a price dip, one of the only guys on this slate, I may have some exposure to him. He didn't get many shots last game.
No.
So I hope that turns around here, but I sure like that price tag.
Yeah, he's my first. You read my mind. You know who I like, and I think he's, the best player right now for the Wizards. I really do. He's a threat to, post up. He can play multiple positions. The fact that his price went down, the bottom line was you had a combination of Troy Brown Jr. and Bryant that couldn't miss. And, so Rui's not didn't get in the way. He sat for a while because of the run they were on, and then, just didn't get the ball because those guys were so hot. But I think at that price, he's a great, great play. He's my favorite Wizard by a mile in that game. I think he's very playable. I want to update something here on the latest info with the Pacers' two key guys. I'm almost positive Oladipo will not play. Based on what I read here, Coach McMillan is planning on sitting him for this game on Monday and then playing him on Tuesday when they have a back-to-back. So I'm not going to have him in any lineups. He's listed as doubtful right now. Malcolm Brogdon is still listed as questionable, but here's what I'm going to say on this one. I'm building my lineups, and I'm going to have Malcolm Brogdon in there, and I'm going to tell you why. I think that his injury is not serious. They wanted to be overcautious. He went through, it says right here, Coach McMillan confirmed Brogdon participated in Sunday's walkthrough. So, I mean, he almost played the other game and just sat. It's just a little neck tweak. It's not like it's something lower extremity. So I think Brogdon plays. I think without Oladipo in there, he gets his 25, 30 minutes, even if it's a little less than normal at the price he's at. I mean, he's down there with some guys that were $4,000 2 days ago. So I think Brogdon's a sharp play that people are going to be afraid to utilize because of the questionable tag. So, those are my nuggets in that game. And 227.5 is decent. And, there are some other playable people here. But as far as what I like Rui from the Wizards side. And I think, I'm very comfortable to roll out Brogdon. It's hard not to play a second pacer because of the lack of defense by the Wizards. So, I mean, you can go back to TJ Warren, and it's not chasing points. It's just the sheer aspect of, if Oladipo's out of there, they don't have Sabonis, and Miles Turner doesn't ever step up. So, I mean, who's going to score? Warren's their go-to guy. And I think people will say, well, I don't want to, chase. He just had 53 real points. I think he's playable. So I'm comfortable to roll out Brogdon and Warren and Rui on the other side.
Yeah, the only thing with Brogdon and the neck is this is one of those things where it would really be nice to know exactly how much it's impacting him, because you get some sort of, neck or shoulder tightness that can completely throw off your shot. If you're feeling a little bit of a twinge when you're about to shoot, that's just not going to work. You need to be relaxed. And so I just got to hope that if he suits it up, he's more like 90%, and it's not going to hold him back. It's just something that it slowed him down for a couple days, but with a lot of treatment, he'll be near 100%.
Yeah, the last 3 or 4 years I played, I had multiple twinges, and I got through it. So everything was twinging.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I did read that it wasn't serious. So I just think it was literally like a stiff neck. He probably slept wrong on one of the pillows there that he's not used to using. And, I'm sure they have a doctor, chiropractor guy snapping him around. I think he's going to be okay. I mean, if it was legs, ankles, whatever, then you worry about load management. But if he's okay to go, the neck's not bothering him, I don't think he'll be on a real minutes restriction at all. So it's going to be a good game, though, for sure. All right, next game. It actually starts at the same time. What are they doing? They always stagger them. So we got a 4 p.m., 3 Central. Yeah, same exact time. Denver Nuggets and Oklahoma City Thunder. Right now, mybookie.ag has this as Thunder minus 4.5 and a slim, tiny, little, minuscule 216.5, which is one of the lower numbers in the last 3 days. There's one other low one on the board, but that is the lowest one. So does that, the question is that going to affect the decision? We know that Jamal Murray more than likely will not play. So it's looking as though the lineup, if they repeat, will be Monte Morris, Craig, Porter, Millsap, and the Joker going up against Paul, Gilgeous-Alexander, Lugens Dort, I love that name, Gallinari, and Mr. Steven Adams. So what's your take on this one?
Well, I do expect it to be a little bit of a slugfest. Not a high-scoring game, but because of the moving parts on the Denver side, you got to consider these value plays. But they're in that group that got priced up. Monte Morris, 5K. Torrey Craig, 4.5. Porter, 4.5. I think the first guy I'm going to target there is Porter Jr. He looked like a young player in that first game, mentally just not really there. Dumb fouls. Just not playing up to his potential, a little bit of back and forth with Coach Malone. So I just got to figure he's going to be in a better mindset. He's going to get himself right, come out mentally. And the one thing he did do in that game against Miami was he was jacking. I mean, he was not hesitating with this opportunity. So I am going to use a lot of Porter here. Hope that he has his head on a little straighter, and he takes advantage of that terrific offensive skill set that he has. On the OKC side, one price and past performance jumped out at me. That's Steven Adams, averaging 48 fantasy points against Denver this year. He's only 5.4, so I like him in the center position. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's only 6K. Again, price just doesn't quite make sense to me on a slate where everybody's expensive. That seems a little bit too cheap for him.
For Shai, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's underpriced. I mean, I absolutely think he's underpriced. The only problem is there's a couple of things here that bother me. Let me say this to begin with. I am fading this game, and I'm sprinting from this game. In fact, I'm not even going to watch this game. I'm going to watch the other game at 4 o'clock. I think this game sucks for DFS, to put it bluntly. And let me explain why. Monte Morris, who a lot of people go to with Murray out, has to go against Chris Paul, world-class defender, first-team all-defense in his career. Torrey Craig is a fantastic defender, and he's going to be draped on Shai. So Shai's price is tempting, but he's getting one of the better perimeter defenders in the league, in my opinion. Then I'm going to say this now, and I'll tell you, I don't like Michael Porter. I think that he's overrated. I think he's soft. I think he's a troublemaker. And I apologize if these things are offensive to any Nuggets fans or Porter fans. I just don't like his look out there. He seems like a selfish player to me. I've seen him have little quips back and forth with the coach. I just don't like him. I don't like his body language. I think he makes stupid mistakes. He looks like he's forcing it.
Yep.
And he's not a guy that I'd want on my squad. And I think that Jeremy Grant is way better, and he's going to split minutes with him at the small forward. So Porter will not make my team. In fact, I'd probably cut the guy. Millsap, too old. The Joker, too expensive. For Oklahoma City, this is not going to be a fast-paced game either direction. And, Chris Paul's going to control it. Again, Alexander's a really solid defender. Dort's a solid defender. Gallo, I'm still furious. I don't understand why he has 15 fantasy points in the first 6 or 7 minutes of every game and then like 5 the rest of the game.
Right.
Does he get gassed after 5 or 6 minutes? I don't know what the hell's going on. And then, Adams, I can see his price isn't bad, but I just don't want to fill my center spot that I need a big contribution with a guy that, gets in foul trouble, isn't a huge scorer. They don't run plays for him at all. He gets what he gets just by scrapping. And they like to play Nerlens Noel a decent amount too. So this game stinks. I'm not playing anybody on it. And I'm ready to move on.
Well, I got to follow up on your Porter commentary because I got a kick out of it. For those of you who are new to the program, this fellow here, Joe Sarvati, we call him Coach because he is a longtime coach. And it sure sounded like he was talking about the coach that had the whistle around his neck and was making cuts for his team.
Yeah.
But, let's not forget, this is not a real life team we're making here. This is DFS. And I agree with all of those eye test points that you just made on Porter. Every single one of them. I agree completely. But that being said, I will play him in DFS because of his offensive skill, the fact that he is selfish. He's going to take a lot of shots. And again, price tag and opportunity. That's why I'll have him in some lineups.
Well, my point there wasn't like a personal nature of like, I don't like the guy. He wouldn't play for me. I'm saying.
Are you sure?
Well, that's true.
It sounded like you're ready to.
That is 100% true.
Jeremy Grant on the squad gets the varsity jersey.
I am not saying for 1 second I wouldn't cut Porter's ass for my own squad. Trust me. But what I'm saying is, if I'm seeing that, certainly Coach Malone and the other players on the floor are seeing that. So My point is, how hard are these other guys going to play to help Porter to get better and be a strong contributor if they're feeling standoffish at all from him? And if he, Malone's a hard on the sleeve kind of coach. If he gets ticked off enough at him, he'll sit him.
Yeah.
He was ready to play earlier when they took him as a rookie, and he made him sit for a while. So, I get what you're saying, and I know I personalize that stuff, and it's true, but I mean it from the perspective of I think his team, how is that going to affect his DFS numbers overall? And, I just don't see the guy being more than a 20, 25 fantasy point guy max. And you got to hope for that, in my opinion. So we'll see. I could be wrong. I know my son Dawson thinks Porter's great. He loves him. He thinks he can play. I mean, he is 6'10" or whatever, and can stroke it. But I just don't like him. I just don't think he's a fit. And we'll see how he goes. All right, we move on. 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central. Memphis Grizzlies, New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans are a 4.5-point favorite. They're really in the position of fighting for their lives now. They're about ready to get themselves eliminated with, again, I love coaches. I respect coaches, but watching Alvin Gentry coach is not a pretty thing, man. I don't think he has for the last 10 years had a good concept of head coaching. He's a great gentleman and a very, very good guy, but as a head coach, I don't see it. I don't believe that he's the guy to lead this young Pelicans team into the future. I would be shocked if they didn't move him to the front office and get a better coach, a younger coach with a vision in there for next season. But that albeit said, the over-under in this game is 238.5. And here's the amazing thing is you've got the Pelicans with an implied total of 121.5. That is, I think, one of the biggest we've seen, if not the biggest in the last 3 days. Grizzlies aren't far behind with a 117, but again, a back-to-back. So, we'll see how that rolls. The projected lineup for the Grizz are Morant, Brooks, Slow-Mo, who's exactly that, a slow-mo. I would not, I think you'll get more action out of the bench guys, and he didn't even finish the last game, so he's not a one to consider. Triple J, who's playing great ball, and Joe Val. And then for the Pelicans, the regular Ball, Holiday, Ingram, Zion, and Derek Favors. So what do you think about this high-scoring shootout that is somewhat a playoff game for that 8-9 spot in the West?
Yeah, I'd like to get some exposure to the Pelicans. They need it, and Memphis is on the back-to-back, so you think they'll have an edge. They really threw out a dud their last game, so they need to respond. But you got to pay for it. Drew Holiday and Ingram, the two guys I'm looking at the most. Drew's at 8.7. Ingram is 8.1. So that'll be a tough choice. On the Memphis side, Brandon Clark is the guy who seems the cheapest. I mean, that's my big challenge here on this slate. I'm just going to try to keep looking for guys that aren't drastically overpriced. And he's another guy that jumped out at me as somebody who I could use here in a up-tempo game. I think it fits his game perfectly, and I like his price tag.
Interesting. Very interesting. For me in this game, I think on FanDuel, Brandon Ingram at 7,400, considering all the terrible pricing, I think that's stealing. I mean, he's cheaper than Morant, Holiday, Chris Paul, DeRozan, on down the line. So, I mean, the guy is a go-to guy. He's a scorer, and I think he's a terrific play here, just based on price alone. A couple other things. John Morant, no interest in this game. He's been playing great ball. Yes, I agree with that. He's a terrific talent, and this game is a high-scoring game. But he probably draws Drew Holiday, and that Drew Holiday is a blanket. And he's gonna run jaw hard, and I think this might be one of these rookie games that Drew Holiday hands to him a little bit. So I'm a little hesitant on the price with Jaw. It's hard not to like the way Triple J's playing. I mean, he had a really solid couple of games here, hit an incredible 3 from the corner to tie that game today. But, he's just playing solid, and I think he's a good play. The center I'm looking at big time here is Joe Val. I mean, he gets to go against slow-mo favors, and he just outsizes them. And I think he's going to muscle him. And he's just as quick. So I think Joe Val's a great opportunity here. He didn't get extended long minutes because they went with Clark a lot in this last game. And, I think Joe Val plays his 30 minutes and really gets it done and can dominate in the paint. When they they'll put Jackson Hayes in there to play him a little, and I think he'll just muscle the living daylights out of him. So Joe Val's my favorite play on this side from the Grizzlies. Certainly got to consider Triple J. And then as far as the Pelicans, I mean, let's face it, with this type of a over-under and these two powerful scoring teams, you're going to have some exposure in this game, probably on both sides. So whether you one or two, off one side or the other, I think you got to look at this as far as somebody that's really good to suit up. Now, my question is this. So let me ask you this opinion, because this is what I'm trying to figure out. Dylan Brooks is a really quality defender. John Moran is still learning. Who does Dylan Brooks guard? Drew Holiday or Lonzo Ball? Or do they put him on Brandon Ingram?
Yeah, I know. I was trying to sort that through as well. I think they've got to have slow-mo on Ingram. And so it will be one of those two guys that you mentioned. I think they put Ja on Drew Holiday and Brooks on Lonzo, just because, Drew's really been handling the ball more. Lonzo's been spotting up, and Brooks is used to playing more on the wing defensively. And so that's one more reason why I do like Drew better than Lonzo here. I think he'll have the better matchup. I think Ja is going to guard Drew.
Well, you could be right, and I sort of lean that way too. I'm going to do as much digging as possible between now and lock to figure that out, because it literally is that big of a deal to me. If Brooks is going to majority of the time guard Ball, then I'm going Holiday. If he's going to guard Holiday, then I'm going Ball, because I think Ja and the players that come off the bench for Ja, I just don't think are as good at defenders. And I know those rotations will change, but, if I can be confirmed that, 25, 30 minutes that Ja's going to guard one of those two, then that's the direction that I'm going to go, along with Ingram. I think Ingram at that price is a free square, in my opinion. I know he's not that cheap, but comparatively speaking with the other players in that price range, I'm done with the Zion experiment. Forget that. I don't even want to think about it. Who knows if he's going to play, not going to play much, play some, this short spurts bull crap that they're doing. I just don't want to even touch it. And I say that, and he'll probably have like 25 dunks. But but anyway, that's where I'm going in this game. I do think you need some exposure, and I think there are some good plays to be had price-wise. But I'd steer from falling for a few of these guys that I don't think are going to fit.
Yeah, it's just funny. I mean, if they gave him 25 minutes, he might have 25 dunks. But at 7,800 on DraftKings,
that's expensive.
No way. I'll pay 81 for Ingram or 87 for Drew.
I'm with you completely. All right, Game 5, San Antonio Spurs on a back-to-back. They had a big win against the Philadelphia 76ers, who, man, the Twitter world was blowing up. Sixers fans having a heart attack about Brett Brown, and everybody squawking. And they need to right the ship in Philly pretty quickly. They are a 7-point favorite against the Spurs. I'll tell you, I'm comfortable to say, and I don't mean to be cocky, but I think I know the players in this league as good as anybody out there watching the games. And I turned it on, and I'm looking at the court, and I see two guys out there, and I'm looking and I'm looking, and actually for a second there were three guys. I said, who in the hell is on the court for San Antonio? I had to look twice. Well, they played. First of all, I didn't know Lonnie Walker cut all that hair off, so that was
Right.
the first one. He looks completely different with that
Yeah.
that giant mop on
He
his head.
same as De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, shocking. And then the other guy they had was Eubanks. He played some big minutes at center, and I'll tell you what, that dude can dunk. He had a reverse dunk that was something else, but I didn't recognize him at first. And then they had another guy in there that I was scratching my head on that rotated in for a couple of minutes. One of the guards, I can't even remember his name. He's so obscure, but he didn't play that much. But anyway, Pop
Was
always
it
does.
Keldon Johnson?
Yes,
Yeah,
Johnson.
he's done all right. Yeah, I played
he's
him.
done okay. Did you?
I played him
Wow.
in this on this slate. Yeah, I think he got 18 plus fantasy points.
He got a lot of
Minimum
minutes,
price.
but I didn't
Yeah.
recognize him immediately. I had to look twice, but I swear Pop tends to play a few guys in the mix that if they were on another team, I don't think they'd ever play. I mean, I'm telling you, take Eubanks out of the Spurs and stick him on, Portland or something. He doesn't see the floor.
Right.
So anyway, I don't know. It always cracks me up. But Spurs don't impress me though. I mean, I think I'm going to make the call on this one. I think Philly is pissed. I think they're feeling the heat, and I think the Spurs are going to be tired after a hard-fought win tonight. And I don't think they're that talented. Murray extended himself tonight. So did DeRozan. I think Philly blows them out. And I know it's hard to predict blowouts when you're building a DFS lineup, but sometimes you have to if you're looking at who you want to build with. So for the Spurs and that rotation, DeJounte played well. I think DeJounte Murray might be the top guy of anybody on this team. They're going to key on DeRozan like crazy. White Walker. Hey, that's a little Game of Thrones deal there. But the White Walker, either one of them, I'm not quite feeling are worth their salary. And Jakob Poeltl is not going to be able to handle Joel. He'll probably be in foul trouble like he was tonight. He ended up playing like 22 minutes because he was in foul trouble and fouled out. So not high on the Spurs team. Not sure what the rotation will be, especially if Philly extends this score. For the betting guys out there listening, Philly -7 seems like a great play to me. I'd take that in a heartbeat. And then you got the regular Philly starters, Milton Richardson, Harris Simmons, and Embiid. The question is, do you spend the gigantic dollars for Embiid, Simmons, and Harris, three of the top 12 highest priced guys on the slate, if the game does blow out by any stretch? Or do you try to get a little bit cheaper option in a Milton Richardson? For me, I don't like it. I'm going to have most of my exposure in 4 of the 6 games. This is the second game on the board that just terrifies me. It is a 229 over-under, so that is a lot. That's a big number. It's very respectable, and, it's the second highest on the board, and you certainly can play some folks here. I think this will be the pivot game for a lot of people, but it's going to be one that I mostly fade, Andrew. I don't know if that's good or bad. What do you think?
Well, I like your breakdown. I think the blowout risk is important to consider here because the studs for Philly are so expensive. But, there is a chance here, just that little dynamic Brett Brown. I don't think he's going to really put the pedal to the metal against Pop here. I think they tend to play it a little bit closer. And I think no matter what happens, I think this is an opportunity for Ben Simmons to be quite productive while he's out there, and if they end up winning by 20, I think it'll be in large part because of him. He had 50 fantasy points against the Spurs here earlier. So he's my favorite guy on the Sixers side. I'll have some exposure to him. I think I'm going to probably pass on Joel Embiid That extra 1,200 is just a little bit too much on DraftKings to get up to 10.3. Same thing. Tobias Harris, 8,600 is a lot for him. I will play him some. It's just a juicy, juicy matchup here. So I'm going to get some Sixers and hope that it's, not a complete blowout. And on the Spurs side, I agree with you in terms of the pecking order. DeJounte Murray's the first guy I would look at. Then you look at somebody like Lonnie Walker. Now he's priced up to 4.4. Makes you really think about it. But for me, really, Ben Simmons is the key here. Hope that he really gets it done while he's out there.
Yeah, you know what? I don't disagree with you, but he's 9,100, and I sold myself short. Simmons is second, Embiid fifth. No, I'm sorry. Let me go back to this. It's Embiid, I think, that's second, right?
Right.
Yes, Embiid second, Simmons fifth, and Harris eighth. They have three of the top 8 expensive guys on the entire slate. That's rough. I agree with you. If I rostered a guy from Philly, Simmons would be the choice. I think you're right there. For the listeners that don't know, Brett Brown was a longtime assistant for Pop, but I've been in that situation where I've had a young coach that goes out and coaches another team. And there's nothing more than a coach wants to do than hand it to his old boss just to give him the business. So I think Philly, they need this game. They feel the pressure, and I think he'd have no problem rolling it up on the old Pop. So we will see. All right, man. Last game, then we can start getting prepared for KBO. Just a joke.
Yeah, right.
All right. Final game on the slate. It is the late night sweat game all by itself. And then, of course, it has to be the LA Lakers versus the Utah Jazz, 9 o'clock, 8 Eastern. Right now, we've got a very low over-under of 218.5, second lowest on the board. Lakers only a 6-point favorite. And as far as any people dinged up here, guess what? Anthony Davis is on the injury report.
No, it can't be.
The first time ever. Yeah.
I think you must have misread that.
I looking right at it. I can't believe it myself. But they have LeBron and Anthony Davis both probable at 85%. I think that's just, it is what it is. And I don't think it means much. Royce O'Neal, your man, is 75%. So probable, but not as probable as LeBron and AD. You've got the regular guys, James, Pope, Green, Davis, and McGee, and Conley, Mitchell, Ingles, O'Neal, and Gobert. So interesting game. Before I share my 2 cents, I'd love to hear your take on this because I think I'm going to have a few players in this late night sweat game. Not because
really?
It's a late night sweat game, but I'm still of that theory that we talked about the other day that Utah's pace of play has increased progressively with the addition of Clarkson, and just it seems like Snyder has turned it up a little bit there. Again, they don't want to get in a foot race with LA. They'll run them out of the gym. But both teams play really good defense. I get that. But, you've got 2 quality teams here. I think that there might be a few sneaky plays. So let me hear the brilliance of Mr. Hansen on this one.
Well, I'm going to tiptoe through this one because of those defenses. I agree. It's important that we keep mentioning the fact that Utah is picking up the pace. That is a very important change here in the bubble. But Lakers are 3rd defensively. Jazz are 11th defensively on the season. So I'm just not thrilled about the game overall. The guy that jumps out to me still as a value play is Kuzma. 4.4 on DraftKings is just way too cheap for the amount of minutes he's getting, the amount of looks. So I like him. Caruso is one of the other value plays on this slate who remains at a good price at 3.1. He's probably my second favorite Laker, but I don't even know if I'll get there because I do like Kuzma enough. The studs for the Lakers, we both faded them the last game against Toronto. I think they'll be probably more productive here, but LeBron 10.7. I don't think I want to go there. So I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to spend up on the Lakers, and I'm not seeing anybody on the Jazz that I really want to play. You could look at Clarkson at 4.9, but for the most part, I'm going to fade this game.
Interesting. My plays here are pretty simple. I think you hit on them. I've got two value plays here that I just think are too cheap. Anything sub 5,000 right now, with the way the pricing is on FanDuel and DraftKings, is so low.
Right.
I mean, they have scrub guys at $6,000. So the fact that you can get sub 5K on Clarkson and on Kuzma off the bench for both of these teams, I think are great guys to round out your team. So I've got a lot of interest in both of those guys. The only other guy I like in this game is my favorite pay-up guy, and I am going to have him 100% owned in all of my GPPs and all of my cash games, and I am going to reveal that tomorrow in our Discord to all our members. I don't think you can win this slate without this man on your team.
Wow.
So
okay.
I know it's only a few guys that you can consider here. Consider what I've said, but I'm going to tell you that this one guy is the key, I think, to taking something down tomorrow. So that gives a little tease for our guys that are hopefully going to join in tomorrow. And I like to save my silver bullets for our members that are we're a family in there, so we got to have each other's back, and we want to take some stuff down. So if you want to become a member, we'd love to have you. You can join for a week, a month, or a year. Just go to dfscoachtalk.com. If you have any questions, hit us up on Twitter, DFS Coach Talk, and we'll be happy to answer any questions for you there. We will be in Discord 30 minutes before both locks on FanDuel and DraftKings, and we will be providing, as normal, a full lineup for FanDuel and a really solid coach's clipboard for DraftKings, which is a pool of players with a highlighted core that really gives you a chance to build something special. And it's worked out fantastic for our members, both on DraftKings with the pool and then FanDuel as well. We've also been adding a GPP play or two in there. Both Andrew and I provided a GPP on FanDuel, and we very well may do that again tomorrow, but you'll have to tune in to see how that one rolls. All right. It's getting late or early, depending on what way you want to look at it. So we don't want to take too long. We want to give you a chance to listen to this 6-game slate preview tomorrow morning, and then join us on Twitter and in Discord. I'd like to thank our presenting sponsors, mybookie.ag and tvg.com, two of my favorite spots. Also, our charity of choice here is mambaon3.org. That's MAMBAONTHREE.org. Wonderful, wonderful charity. So that is it, my man. I think we have covered all the bases. I think we are off to a good start. For those that can't sleep tonight, I'm going to be posting this in about 30 minutes. And for those that are up early in the morning, good morning. And I hope you enjoyed the show. So any final words there, Mr. Hansen?
No, it's funny. You sound like you're broadcasting like the Wimbledon or the French Open, something that's where they greet the Americans that are having breakfast.
Yes,
when they're over there having lunch, and here we are, we're having our midnight snack, and we're greeting people for breakfast. But it was fun to break it down here, and look forward to building some lineups with you tomorrow.
It's going to be fun. Just keep making some money, keep building the bankroll. All right, appreciate everybody, and for the entire DFS Coach Talk team, and especially my partner here, Mr. Andrew Hansen, I am Coach. We'll look to catch you again tomorrow when we crush it in DFS.